I've gotta say, first of all, congratulations to this game for selling 1 million copies. And after thinking about what I said in part 1 of this review, I've come to the conclusion that this is more of a gameplay focused RPG rather than story, but to recap what I thought of the story, I mean, it had an interesting premise, but had characters that were hard to care about.
There were also moments where the game made it seem like you were saving humanity from demons, while at the same time there were some gray and not so dangerous to humans kind of demons. I mean, this guy with the hat stood by Abdiel's side. This other guy with a hat with short and dark hair hates demons, but how come he has eyes of demons and teams up with Nua, who is also a demon? Well, anyway, we have a lot of ground to cover in terms of gameplay, so let's get going. For those of you that do not know, Shin Megami Tensei is a turn-based RPG. I often tell a friend who is not familiar with this series that it's basically Pokemon for a mature audience, and believe it or not, this series is actually older than Pokemon by almost a decade. I'll talk more about this series' history in another video. While in Pokemon, you catch cute little creatures via Pokeballs, you are recruiting demons here via negotiation. Negotiations tend to start with them asking you a few questions or just stating a statement such as, me being new to the netherworld and wondering what kind of demon I am. You're given a few dialogue options for each one, in which I'll give her a friendly response, which turned out to be the correct response, but from my experience with this game, you don't really know what the correct response is until you pick it, and so now she wants Maka, which I oblige. Sometimes they'll ask for an item, some of your health, or MP, etc. They'll ask for something once you've given the correct responses to their questions. They'll ask for more than one thing sometimes, but typically after you give 2 or 3 things or whatever, you can tell them no and they'll still join you. Another example of something they may ask is, do you think us meeting like this was fate? And I've gotten the top or bottom question several times, and I've had a Kelpie mention something about fun, and yep, that bottom selection was a dialogue option, ladies and gentlemen. I picked that one, he leaves laughing at me because I was lacking. Thanks. If the negotiation goes wrong, the demons will either attack you again or leave. Although, do you see that date in the moon up top? If it's like a full moon or a new moon, then sometimes the demons will just skip the questions, making recruiting them easier. One of the things I really like about this game is these demons take inspiration from multiple religions and mythologies. Examples include Edon from Norse mythology, who is actually one of my favorite demons to use because she has this one ability called Golden Apple, which restores your HP and raises your attack power and defenses. I also love the Luster Candy ability as it gives you all the buffs and, might I say, Cleopatra's Frolic? Zeus from Greek mythology, Isis, who is the mother goddess of Egypt, and Beelzebub, who in the New Testament of the Bible was referenced as the Prince of Demons. In the Old Testament, he was an Ekron god who was worshipped during Elijah's time. The list goes on, really. A couple of interesting ones are bugs, who in Welsh folklore eat children who do not obey their parents, Mara, and Hariti, who is a Buddhist goddess that used to eat children, but because of loneliness, she stopped and started eating pomegranates instead. Then there's Belphegor, who sits on a toilet. Let's move on now. This game uses what is called the press turn system. You have your player character plus up to 3 demons in your party, more in your stock. See those up top? Those are visual representations of the amount of turns you can have before it's the enemy's turn. When you take advantage of enemy weaknesses, you can go again and take up to 8 turns, but if the enemy dodges or blocks your attacks, then you lose turns. The same rules apply to who you're fighting as well. Let me tell you though, this series of games is hard. I died a lot and I played on normal mode all the way through without changing the difficulty. What's normal difficulty for Shin Megami Tensei is actually hard in comparison to video games in general. There are several difficulty options, with safety difficulty if you just want the story, casual, in which I hear is for newcomers but will still give a challenge for them, normal mode, again I picked this difficulty, and then hard, which is for the most battle hardened players of the series. Would hard mode make this one of the hardest games in the franchise? Comment below if you've played through hard mode and tell me what you think. I would say the game is a bit easier than I was mentally prepared for. I did not die once until the Hydra boss fight, but then I started dying a lot after. I had a friend point out that this game was easier compared to 3, 4, and 4 Apocalypse. From the little experience I have with 4, I remember when I got poisoned, it would carry over into outside of combat where you take damage with every step, but in this game, there are status effects, but only in combat. I also remember I would get far down in the first dungeon of 4, and when I needed to heal or go to the outside world for something, I would have to backtrack all the way back to the entrance. But in this game, you can fast travel to a save point anytime you are not in combat. While this game is still harder than your average JRPG, I think what would make it easier compared to the rest of the series is probably the quality of life changes, such as the ones I mentioned. My go-to strategy for most bosses were arrange my team to where I could target weaknesses, made sure I had abilities that could buff my team members as well as debuff my enemies. I had to use buffs and debuffs more than other games I've played in the genre. There was also again, I played half of this game in Japanese and I'm not sure if they ever said this in English, so I'll do my best. Magatsushi. There is a Magatsushi gauge that fills up, and once it fills up, well, I mainly used it to do bonus damage. I never really used other abilities that it uses other than the bonus XP one, where you get extra XP if you end the battle on the turn you activate it. It being the skill that gives you bonus XP, of course. Enemies also have a gauge like this too, and for example, Zeus, who is a thunder god, once he readies himself to use it next turn, he would use a very powerful thunder attack that attacks your whole party. Unless you use an item called Electric Dampener, which would block his lightning attack and he would lose his turns, making it your turn again just like that. There are also a few of the classic style SMT dungeons in this game where you dungeon crawl your way through fighting enemies, looking for stairs to get to the next floor, but most of your time is spent in these large levels that take place in dots that are really more like Xenoblade levels, and I don't mind. I wanted to explore. I ended up exploring every inch of these maps, finding items, Mimon, in which Cadaver, who is the shopkeeper in this game, gives you awards such as Gospels that bump your level up to the next level. You also receive glory to use in the World of Shadows, in which you learn miracles that let you have more demons in stock, increase your skill slots to be able to learn more moves, raise how much damage your elemental magic does, etc. There are no weapons or armor that you buy in this game, which I'm going to say this glory system replaces it, as well as the benefits of this system do stack. World of Shadows is also where you take 2 or more demons and fuse them into stronger ones. A key mechanic, by the way. Back to the levels though, areas tend to be wide enough for me to evade enemies when I don't want to fight. I like how I could see who I would fight, unlike the pixels in 4. Not only that, but when you try to escape battles, it shows your chances of doing so successfully. Why don't other JRPGs do this? As far as level design, the first map of Dot is simple enough as a first area in the game. Chiyoda, wait, is it Chiyoda or Chiyoda? I've heard it both ways. Anyway, Chiyoda though, I'll pull up a map. It's not easy to get from this area to this area without skip travel, as there are specific routes that travel between the two. Taito also has 1 or 2 specific routes to the boss Odin where you have to climb these floating blocks. I sorta just ran around until I got to Odin, and I sorta did this in my example of Chiyoda too. Searching for all the Memon is where I really notice this kind of thing. Sometimes it's not just a case of knowing where they're at, but how to get to them, if you know what I mean. I only used the guide to find one Memon, and it had only one route to it, and it was underneath a bridge. Here's another map. It's right here, but had to travel to here, then there. It really is kind of minor, as I do not think most players will notice, but it is something I noticed with the amount of time I spent in these levels. The level design was pretty open with some specific areas, ones that are like a maze, which is not a bad thing, but the examples I mentioned are when I think, For optional findings, such as Memon and optional bosses, I would say this is good for rewarding you for your curiosity. However, with key and important places, such as the first and second area in Shiota, that's where I think routes between the two need to be more obvious. How I ended up finding all these little creatures without a guide, for the most part. I pay this demon that tells me where they are at, I take screenshots of the map, close the game without saving, and boom, I save Maka and not have to use the internet. The game also offers side quests that let you level up. I would say I've done like 98% of these quests, although my neutral alignment did not let me do the law or chaos quest as I did not have the Maka for it. One thing does bother me though. If you want to get the true ending in one playthrough, which is what I tried to do, you will have to level up the old-fashioned way once you get around to level 80, I'm going to say. There is not much opportunity to earn XP other than grind, although your other option is to replay the game again through New Game Plus after beating it. I did not buy any of the DLC until I got to Metatron, which is before the part where you decide your ending. You can actually choose your ending in this game, but it would be recommended to have your alignment match the ending you are going for. It's not that big of a loss if your alignment does not match the ending you're going for, but you will have to pay a fee to get the benefits of that specific route. Fee being through in-game Maka, that is. Wait, where was I? Right, I was talking about DLC. I bought the DLC demons and XP grind DLC and quickly leveled up to level 99, but Shiva, who is a super boss, is required to beat to get the game's true ending. I may have been higher level than this boss, but I still got my butt kicked. I then decided to just get the law, chaos, and neutral endings and get the true ending some other time. This game is a great gameplay type RPG, but bear in mind, should you pick this one up, you will be in for some hardcore gaming. I will need to play more Shin Megami Tensei games to see how well my thoughts will hold up in this review, but as a JRPG, this probably is not in my top 10 favorite JRPGs. I will say it's probably an A or B tier kind of game. I will go ahead and give it a 9 out of 10 because it has great gameplay and an interesting premise despite it dropping the ball a couple of times. I admit it's a little demanding of the player, which is why you would have to get into this to enjoy it. I can't recommend this if you don't like role-playing games if they are too long for you, nor can I recommend if you're not into hard games. Me, on the other hand, long games are a win for me because it justifies my purchase, and I've been playing games in the JRPG genre for a long time now, so naturally, a difficult game that is able to put my experience to the test is a good change of pace. Do the other games in the main series offer better stories? Possibly, but I will not know until I play them. I have a suspicion this may be one of the easier games in the series, but maybe because of quality of life improvements that this game has, the other games do not have. I don't know, I'll let you know when I've played the other ones. I've been interested in Persona's parent series for a while, and I'm glad I had the opportunity to play this one. Thank you all for watching, please like, subscribe, and share with your friends, and take care.